Just in time for summer, we get a little bit of a test drive that allows us to, well, drop the top, let the wind blow through our hair, and, well, have a little bit of fun. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now behind me is the 2017 Fiat 500C. Now let's see how this 6-foot plus frame climbs inside. One thing to talk about for 2017 are reductions, not necessarily in overall size, but actually when it comes to base price, because what Fiat is actually doing is reducing that on an average of about 10 to 11%, saving you some money right from the start. Now for this model here, it priced in around about mid 16,000 range, as tested just over $20,000. All that for a nice drop top that gives you that open air feel, especially ready for the summer. Now I'm over 6 feet tall and my wingspan's, well, not that impressive, but it almost feels like I can reach from front to back real easily. And why is that? Because this vehicle is labeled as a mini compact. Now, if you're not familiar with that segment, it falls well below maybe the typical sedan you're used to, in the tune of almost 3 foot shorter. Now, by the numbers, this vehicle measures in about 140 inches overall, wheelbase about 90 inches, width just over 5, and just under 5 feet tall. One other key feature is really the ground clearance. This vehicle, keeping it nice and snug, measuring at a mere 4.5 inches off the ground. When you look at the 500C, after you get past the wow factor of wow, it's so small, the next thing you'll notice is definitely that Italian-esque exterior that definitely translates quite well from overseas to the American way. And where it starts is really changing your mentality that bigger is better, when actually quality and design is one key feature that we definitely got to look at. Now what I like is, of course, they brought in the nostalgic when it comes to the profile, and pretty much body color is all the way around. What I like is they've also minimized any kind of cheap accents, instead going with more of a black rubberized accent here, nice body color mirrors, and just a touch of class there on the front and rear handles. So who's actually attracted to the Fiat 500C? It's cabriolet, cute and cuddly exterior. Could it be a masculine, manly guy such as myself? Well, for this week, I actually had to dive inside and, well, try to fit the bill. And where some of that cute and cuddliness is seen is truly up front in that good old grille warfare, or in this case, the lack thereof. Because after all, these bug headlights really kind of glaring at you as you go by, almost like it wants to blink and kind of flirt with you, coupling with that nice smirking grille across the middle, really gives you more of a cute and warm kind of feeling versus really get off the road and get out of my way. Now what I like is body colors all the way around. You do have a nice sloping aerodynamics, really that gives you that pronounced profile from the side. Now if you look up front, little bit of airflow here and there, and what I like is safety is kind of subtly built in, and you see that in these black appointments right here, really the impact areas that's going to take the brunt of force should you be in any type of collision. That versus some bulky bumper that really would just seem out of place. There's clearly safety built at the front end and also around the vehicle as you walk around. One thing to note is right here at the driver's door when it comes to the dual stage mirror, really with the standard in the middle and that extender here on the outside, giving you some more blind spot awareness versus the more electronic versions we've seen on other vehicles. Now it definitely comes in handy because after all, there is a quite substantial pillar right here. So when the driver looks over his shoulder, it is slightly blocked. Even though there is kind of a porthole here, it does give you a little bit of blind spot. So that extension here on the mirror is definitely going to help out. Now, one thing I like on small vehicles is, well, minimizing small aggravations. And to me, it all starts with the key. And in this case, one of the, well, small aggravations. Instead of having the good old smart key systems, this has a little bit of old school, pretty much meaning you have to hit the button to unlock it or use the key and all that. I'd prefer a keyless system that allows you to keep it in your pocket and forget about it. Now coming around to the business end, first thing to note about here is also some safety, and what they have is the backup sensors. Now one thing they don't couple with that is a backup camera, which would go quite nicely with that monitor up front, but instead you really got to rely on the sensors because after all, this is again a somewhat small porthole, so you definitely have to use those sensors to get into the tight spots. Now as for cargo, the good old business side, there is a nice electronic release for the rear hatch, and what you're going to see here is about 5.5 cubic feet, or about half of what you'd find on a standard 500 model. Let's swing around to the rest of the vehicle. Oh, but one thing I forgot, let's climb inside this trunk one last time, but oh heck, we left the top down, so what are we going to do? Because after all, it's pretty much stacked right here. Well, Fiat thinks of everything. All you got to do is simply squeeze the handle here. It's actually going to retract the top just enough to allow you to climb inside this rear trunk, pop it open, and pretty much ready to go. With that amount of cargo area, you definitely can have a weekend excursion, have enough room for your luggage, and well, don't forget those back seats do expand the cargo area, so you might even be able to squeeze maybe at least a club or two inside to, well, hit the open links. Now, one thing I like is, of course, on the weekend and a cool day like this is to be able to drop the top, and it's made real easily. And the way you do it is simply climbing inside, crank her up, and what you're going to find is no manual release at all, but instead two simple buttons. Just press it and you're going to see the rag top literally fold up above you. Now it's going to get about halfway and it's going to stop. Now that's going to give you that open air sunroof like feel, but simply press it again and it's going to extend all the way, give you a nice open look to the sky above. If you've ever used a sewing machine, press the pedal underneath, you'll definitely know the harder you press it, the faster you can sew, and well, that basically describes the engine here, specifically a 1.4 liter inline 4-cylinder engine. Now there's no need to kind of guess at 0 to 60, and pretty much you're not going to pull out in traffic until you have definitely enough breathing room. But what I liked, when you're up and going, if you stomp on that gas, it definitely will deliver and give you just enough boot scoot boogie to feel like you can be in demand of getting where you want to go. For any mini compact, when you climb inside, you're going to definitely expect for it to be tight and snug, but truly what they've done is pushed it about as far out as it can go, giving my 6-foot+ frame actually plenty of room. Now when you look at legroom numbers up front, it's going to be around about 40 inches, really on that borderline of allowing me to truly stretch out. Now for this 2+2 design, the second row is definitely going to need some accommodation should you put full-size adults back there, because specifically legroom back there is around about 31 inches, or well, equivalent of basically knee bleeding fun. One key component into helping the overall feel and comfort up front really comes down to the overall seat design, specifically the armrests that are built in. Now what I like is on the door, there's a nice armrest to accommodate your left side. Right here in the middle, nice armrest both for the driver and passenger. On some vehicles like this, you'll definitely find typically nothing here, meaning the passengers, well, they're on their own. Now what I also like is the armrests really aren't hiding anything down below. In some cases on smaller vehicles, when the armrests are down, you can't actually get to the cup holders. Now there is 2 cup holders here, but that's really kind of extra because you have 2 nice ones up front here that, well, you'll probably end up never using those unless, again, you throw some people back there. Looking at the overall design, this is definitely a regal approach when it comes to the interior, with nice dual tones, darker elements with bright accents just the same. Now what I like is we do have a center cluster here, not too far of an arm stretch because after all this is a mini compact, but there's a lot of things going on in this relatively small display. After all, you can navigate, but I dare say that's kind of too small of a screen there. Now when you sweep down, what I do like is everything is nice, centralized and simple. When it comes to climate controls, really again, barely a stretch away. Nice digital readout when it comes to temperature. Of course, buttons up and down for the fan speed and various mode selects on the left and right. For the gear select, it's nice and positioned up high, nice retro knob here. Now this is the automatic, but there is a 5-speed manual if you prefer. I'd rather have a less clutch dance and go with something like this. Now this does have the standard mode, but you can opt to flip it to the left and do more of a manual like. Now one thing to get used to, if you're used to the window controls on the doors, well, it's just not enough room on a tight vehicle like this. So they're right here, nice and simple, and it just takes a little bit of getting used to. Now that does it for this edition of Road Warrior, and a test drive behind the wheel of the 2017 Fiat 500C, a vehicle that changed my overall thought of, well, bigger is better, and actually scaling down my overall approach that maybe a mini compact can actually be quite fun. Now, granted, it definitely changed my overall demeanor of being masculine and made me a little bit more cute and cuddly, but sometimes that's just how we need to feel. Now, as always, thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead.